The Great Hall of the HFY Empire stretched across 3 city blocks. Its crystal walls reached toward the stars, and inside, the most powerful beings in the galaxy made decisions that shaped entire worlds. Today, something strange was happening. Messages were coming in from every corner of known space, and they all said the same thing. Admiral Zexthul stood before the massive viewing screen. His forearms moved in smooth patterns as he read each message. His blue skin flickered with confusion. The Admiral had conquered 17 star systems in his lifetime. He had never seen anything like this. The first message came from the Valeth Confederation. These beings were older than most stars. They had watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. They rarely spoke to anyone anymore. But today they sent a simple message. Do not go to Sol 3 system. Do not contact the 3rd planet. The species there is dangerous beyond your understanding. Admiral Zexthul laughed. The sound echoed through the hall like breaking glass. Dangerous, he said to his officers. We scanned that system last month. The beings there still use fire to make things move. They have barely left their own moon. Commander Vextar, his second in command, brought more messages. Sir, we are getting similar warnings from the Mordan archives. The Mordan were living libraries. They stored knowledge from 10,000 different worlds. Their message was longer. The humans of Earth represent an evolutionary path that should never have been allowed to develop. They are apex predators who learn to think. Do not make contact. Do not give them access to faster-than-light travel. Contain them if possible, but do not engage directly. More messages followed. The Whisper Collective, beings made of pure thought, sent images instead of words. The images showed small bipedal creatures with forward-facing eyes, the mark of hunters. The creatures worked together in ways that made no sense. They fought wars while helping their wounded. They destroyed their own cities to stop enemies. They turned farming tools into weapons and weapons into art. The machine intelligence of the Nexus Protocol sent data files, cold numbers and calculations that painted a picture of something impossible. A species that improved during conflict instead of being weakened by it. A species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and volcanic eruptions that would have ended most civilizations. A species that had turned their own planet into a training ground for violence. Look at this, Commander Vexistar said, his voice shaking. The Nexus says humans have had over 15,000 wars in their recorded history. Some lasted over 100 years, and they kept getting better at fighting. Admiral Zexthul waved his hand dismissively. Numbers can lie. Look at their technology. They use metal tubes that explode to throw small pieces of metal at each other. They ride in vehicles that burn dead plants for energy. How dangerous can they be? The warnings kept coming. Every species that had ever made contact with the galactic community sent messages. Some were formal diplomatic communications. Others were desperate pleas. A few were just single words repeated over and over. No, no, no. The strangest message came from the Eternal Watchers, beings of pure energy who lived between stars. They had no physical form and no need for planets or resources. They had no reason to lie. Their message was simple. We have seen the end of civilizations before. We have watched species destroy themselves and others, but we have never seen anything like the humans. They do not just fight to survive. They fight to fight. War is not something they do. War is something they are. The War Council of the HFY Empire met that evening. 12 of the most powerful military minds in the galaxy sat around a table made from crystallized starlight. They reviewed all the messages, all the warnings, all the data. General Morthek spoke first. The pattern is clear. Every species that knows about humans warns us away. There must be something we are missing. Admiral Zexthul slammed his fist on the table. The crystal rang like a bell. Cowards and fools, he said. These species have grown weak. They see danger where there is only opportunity. Earth is a garden world with abundant resources and a primitive population. It is exactly what our empire needs for expansion. But, sir, Commander Vextar said carefully, what if they are right? What if humans are truly dangerous? The Admiral stood and activated the holographic display. It showed the Sol system in perfect detail. 9 planets orbiting a yellow star. The 3rd planet glowed blue and white, covered in water and clouds. Scans showed cities, farms, and forests. Everything looked normal and peaceful. Look at it, the Admiral said. Does this look like the home of galaxy-threatening monsters? I see a beautiful world filled with resources. I see a species that has not even learned to travel between stars. I see weakness waiting to be conquered. The council voted. It was not even close. 12 votes for invasion, 0 against. The admiral smiled. Within a month, 3 dreadnought fleets would leave for Earth. Each ship carried 50,000 of the Empire's finest soldiers. Each ship had weapons that could crack planets in half. But as the council members left the Great Hall, some of them looked worried. Commander Vextar stayed behind. "Sir," he said quietly, "I have been thinking about the warnings. Why would so many different species agree on the same thing? They have nothing in common. Some are machines, some are energy beings, some are flesh like us. They have different goals, different ways of thinking, but they all say the same thing about humans." Admiral Zexthul looked out at the stars. "Fear makes people see monsters where none exist," he said. "These species have forgotten what it means to be strong. They send warnings because they are afraid of what we might become if we add Earth's resources to our empire." "What if you are wrong?" Vextar asked. The admiral turned to face his second-in-command. His eyes glowed with the confidence that had conquered star systems. "Then we will learn something new. And if humans are truly dangerous, we will remove that danger from the galaxy forever. Either way, the Kethavar Empire grows stronger." As the weeks passed, the warnings continued to arrive. Some species begged the Empire to reconsider. Others offered trade deals and territory in exchange for leaving Earth alone. A few even threatened war if the Empire proceeded. Admiral Zexthul ignored them all. He had made his choice. The Empire had made its choice. They would not be frightened away by superstitions and old fears. The final message came from an unknown source. It appeared on every screen in the Empire at the same time. Just text, white letters on a black background. "You have been warned. When the screaming starts, remember that you chose not to listen." The admiral deleted the message and gave the order. 3 massive fleets launched toward Earth, carrying death and conquest toward a small blue planet that most of the galaxy feared. They would learn soon enough why. 3 months later, the Kethvar fleet reached the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Zexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Through the massive view screen, he could see the small yellow star and its family of planets. The third planet, Earth, hung like a blue jewel in the darkness. "Beautiful," he said to Commander Vextar. "It will make a fine addition to our empire." The 3 dreadnoughts moved slowly through space. Each ship was 5 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. The Eternal Conquest led the formation, followed by the Star Crusher and the Void Hammer. 150,000 Imperial soldiers traveled in these ships, ready to claim a new world for their empire. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we are receiving signals from the third planet. Multiple sources, many different languages. Put them on speaker," the admiral ordered. The bridge filled with strange sounds, voices speaking in languages the Empire had never heard before. Some sounded angry, others frightened. A few seemed excited. The universal translator worked slowly, picking out words and meanings. "Unknown vessels. Please identify yourselves. Military forces are prepared to respond. Welcome to Earth. We come in peace. Warning all civilian aircraft to stay away from." Admiral Zexthul smiled. "They know we are here, but they don't know what we want." "Perfect. Open a channel to the entire planet." The communications officer worked at his controls. "Channel open, sir." The admiral activated the holographic recorder. His image would be broadcast to every radio, television, and computer on Earth. He stood tall, his forearms spread wide, his blue skin gleaming in the bridge lights. "People of Earth," he began. His voice translated into 17 different galactic languages. "I am Admiral Zexthul of the Kethvar Empire. Your planet has been selected for incorporation into our great civilization. You have 2 choices. Surrender now and serve the Empire, or resist and be destroyed. You have 24 Earth hours to decide." He ended the transmission and waited. The bridge was quiet except for the humming of the ship's engines. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "we are detecting movement on the planet's surface. Many small objects are launching into space." "Show me," the admiral ordered. The main screen changed to show Earth in detail. Tiny points of light were rising from the planet's surface, leaving trails of fire behind them. They moved slowly compared to Imperial ships, but there were hundreds of them. "Primitive missiles," Commander Vextar said. "Chemical rockets with explosive warheads. They cannot penetrate our shields," the admiral nodded. "Let them waste their weapons. Soon they will see how pointless resistance is." The first wave of human missiles reached the Imperial ships. They exploded against the energy shields in brilliant flashes of light. The shields did not even flicker. More missiles followed, including larger ones that came from hidden bases on Earth's moon. All of them broke harmlessly against the Imperial defenses. "Sir?" the sensor operator said, his voice confused. "There are more objects launching from Earth, much smaller ones." The Admiral looked at the screen. Thousands of tiny spacecraft were rising from Earth's atmosphere. They were crude things, little more than metal boxes with rocket engines attached. Each one was barely large enough for a single person. "What are they doing?" Commander Vextar asked. They found out quickly. The small human ships did not fire weapons. Instead, they aimed directly at the Imperial dreadnoughts and accelerated to maximum speed. The humans were trying to ram their ships. "Impossible," the Admiral said. "No species commits suicide in space combat. They must be remotely controlled." But the communications officer was listening to human radio transmissions. His face went pale. "Sir, these ships have pilots. Living humans. And they are singing." "Singing?" The officer activated the speakers. Human voices filled the bridge, dozens of them, all singing different songs in different languages. Some sounded like battle hymns. Others were gentle melodies about home and family. A few were just people screaming at the top of their lungs. The first human ship struck the void hammer. It was like a gnat hitting a mountain, but the explosion left a small black mark on the dreadnought's hull. More ships followed, each one guided by a human pilot who chose to die rather than surrender. "Status report," the Admiral demanded. "Minimal damage to void hammer," came the reply. "Shields are holding. But sir, there are over 2,000 human ships in space now, and more launching every minute." Admiral Zexthal watched in fascination as wave after wave of human pilots threw themselves at his ships. Each explosion was tiny, meaningless against the Imperial war machines. But they kept coming, and each time a human ship was destroyed, the remaining pilots seemed to fight harder. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet. A single human wants to speak with you. Put him on screen." The image of a human male appeared on the view screen. He was old with gray hair and deep lines on his face. He wore a military uniform covered in colorful metals. Behind him, the Admiral could see other humans working frantically at computer terminals. "I am General Harrison, speaking for the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. "We received your demand for surrender. Here is our response." The human raised his hand. The Admiral could see he was holding a small device with a red button. "We have been preparing for this day for 50 years, General Harrison continued. "We always knew someone would come to take our world. We have been ready." He pressed the button. Every military base on Earth launched missiles at the same time. Thousands of nuclear warheads rose into space, followed by kinetic weapons fired from hidden installations. The humans had turned their entire planet into a fortress. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was what the Admiral saw in the human's eyes. There was no fear there, no desperation. The human was smiling. "You want our world?" General Harrison said. "Come and take it." The transmission ended. The Admiral stared at the blank screen, trying to understand what he had just seen. In 500 years of conquest, no species had ever responded to Imperial demands with joy. "Sir," Commander Vexitar said quietly, "the humans are not acting like any species we have encountered before. Maybe we should consider the warnings we received." The Admiral shook his head. "It does not matter. They are brave, I will give them that. But bravery without strength is just another form of weakness. Prepare for orbital bombardment. We will break their spirit with superior firepower." But as he gave the order, Admiral Zexthal felt something he had not experienced in centuries of warfare. For the first time since the battle began, he was not entirely certain of victory. On the screen, more human ships rose from Earth. Each one carried a person who had chosen to die fighting rather than live as a slave. The Admiral began to understand why other species had warned them about humans. These creatures did not just fight to survive. They fought because they chose to fight, and that made all the difference. 6 months had passed since the first attack. What should have been a simple 3-day conquest had become a nightmare that haunted Admiral Zexthal's dreams. The human resistance had not broken. Instead, it had grown stronger, more desperate, and more terrifying with each passing day. The Admiral stood in his command center, looking at reports that made no sense. His fleet had used every weapon in the Imperial arsenal. They had bombarded cities with plasma fire. They had poisoned the atmosphere with chemical weapons. They had even used gravitational disruptors to create earthquakes and tsunamis. Each time the humans adapted. "Sir," Commander Vextar said, approaching with another stack of reports. "The latest intelligence from the surface." Admiral Zexthul took the datapad and read. His four hands shook as he absorbed the information. When human cities were destroyed from orbit, they moved underground. When their air was poisoned, they built sealed bunkers and learned to make new air from water and electricity. When earthquakes collapsed their tunnels, they dug new ones, but the worst part was how they fought back. "Commander," the Admiral said slowly, "explain to me again how humans destroyed the Star Crusher." Vexitar looked uncomfortable. "They used their own city as bait, sir. The settlement of Denver had a population of 2 million humans. They sent a fake surrender message asking us to land troops for the transfer ceremony. When our dropships entered the atmosphere, the entire city exploded." "The entire city?" "Every building, sir. They had spent months placing explosives throughout their own homes, schools, and hospitals. 2 million humans died instantly, along with 40,000 of our troops and 12 dropships. The explosion was visible from space." Admiral Zexthul set down the report. In his 5 centuries of military service, he had never encountered a species that would destroy their own cities to kill enemy soldiers. The tactical computer called it unacceptable loss ratios, but the humans seemed to view massive casualties as just another weapon. "What about the biological weapons?" he asked. "The humans are immune now, sir. Completely immune. Our xenobiology team says it should have taken them 50 generations to develop resistance. Instead, they did it in 6 months." The Admiral pulled up another report. A human settlement had been infected with a plague designed to attack their nervous system. Within weeks, the survivors had developed natural immunity. Within months, they were using their own blood to create vaccines for other settlements. The speed of adaptation was impossible according to every biological model the Empire possessed. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving another transmission from the human resistance." "Put it on screen." A human female appeared on the view screen. She was young, maybe 20 years old by human standards. Half of her face was covered in burn scars from Imperial plasma weapons. She spoke with a calm voice that somehow made her words more frightening. "Admiral Zexthul," she said, "my name is Sarah Martinez. I represent the children of Denver. We wanted to thank you for killing our parents." The Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. "Thank us? Before you came, we were just kids playing video games and complaining about homework. Now we know what we really are. We are the children of the species that survived ice ages and plagues and wars that lasted centuries. We are the grandchildren of the humans who crawled out of caves and decided to own the world." The human girl smiled, and the expression was terrifying on her scarred face. "You have given us purpose," she continued. "You have reminded us what we are capable of. For that we thank you. Now let us show you what grateful humans can do." The transmission ended. Within minutes, alarms began ringing throughout the Imperial fleet. "Report," the Admiral shouted. "Sir, multiple human ships are approaching our position, but these are not suicide boats. They appear to be. Sir, they are using our own technology." The main screen showed a sight that made the Admiral's blood freeze. Human ships were approaching the Imperial fleet, but they moved with the smooth grace of anti-gravity drives. They fired weapons that looked suspiciously like Imperial plasma cannons. Most terrifying of all, they used shield technology that should have been impossible for humans to understand. "How?" the Admiral whispered. Commander Vexitar pulled up a report from the Intelligence Division. "Sir, the humans have been salvaging our destroyed ships. They reverse engineer our technology faster than our own scientists can develop it. They take apart our weapons and build better versions. They study our shield generators and find ways to make them more efficient." The human ships opened fire. Their weapons were cruder than Imperial designs, but they worked. More importantly, there were hundreds of them. The humans had built a fleet using scavenged parts and pure determination. "Sir," the sensor operator reported, "the human ships are not trying to destroy us. They are trying to capture our vessels intact." The Admiral watched in horror as human boarding pods attached themselves to Imperial ships. The pods cut through armor plating with tools that looked like modified mining equipment. Within minutes, hand-to-hand combat was raging in the corridors of Imperial dreadnoughts. The reports from the boarding actions were worse than anything the Admiral could have imagined. Human soldiers fought with weapons made from kitchen knives and farming tools. When they ran out of ammunition, they threw rocks. When they ran out of rocks, they used their bare hands and teeth. The Imperial soldiers were trained professionals with advanced armor and energy weapons. They should have won easily, but the humans fought like wild animals. They crawled through air vents to attack from behind. They used their own wounded as decoys. They turned children into message carriers who could move through combat zones without being noticed. "Sir," a medical officer reported, "we have captured several human soldiers for interrogation. But sir, we cannot break them." "What do you mean?" "They do not respond to pain the way other species do. When we increase the level of discomfort, they become more focused, not less. One prisoner has been awake for 72 hours straight, and she is still giving us false information with perfect clarity." Admiral Zexthul pulled up the psychological profiles his science team had compiled. The data painted a picture of a species that had evolved in an environment of constant threat. Humans could function on minimal sleep, survive on almost any organic matter for food, and adapt to environmental changes that would kill most species. But the most disturbing part was their capacity for cooperation. Humans would sacrifice themselves for complete strangers. They shared resources with other tribes even when it meant less for their own families. They had an instinctive understanding of group tactics that took other species centuries to develop. "Commander," the admiral said quietly, "show me the recordings from the surface battles." The main screen showed footage from Imperial ground forces. Human settlements that looked empty and abandoned would suddenly come alive with weapons fire. Children as young as 10 years old fired sniper rifles from hidden positions. Elderly humans, too old to fight, would trigger explosive booby traps that killed Imperial soldiers and themselves. But the most terrifying footage showed humans eating. When Imperial forces cut off their supply lines, humans ate anything organic they could find. Tree bark, grass, insects, and sometimes each other. They did not just survive under conditions that would break other species. They thrived. "Sir," Commander Vextar said softly, "perhaps it is time to consider withdrawal." Admiral Zexthul looked at his old friend. In the 6 months since the invasion began, Vextar had aged 10 years. His skin had lost its healthy blue color and turned pale gray. His hand shook when he thought no one was looking. "We cannot withdraw," the admiral said. "The Empire expects victory. Our reputation depends on crushing human resistance. Sir, with respect, what reputation will we have if the humans destroy our entire fleet?" Before the admiral could answer, alarms began ringing again. The sensor operator's voice cracked with panic. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting human ships throughout the solar system. They have spread to the asteroid belt, the outer planets, and 3 of the major moons. And sir, they are building something." The main screen showed images from across the Sol system. Human settlements had sprouted like weeds on airless rocks and frozen moons. They were mining asteroids, building space stations, and constructing shipyards in the vacuum of space. Admiral Zexthul realized with growing horror that the humans were not just defending their home world. They were expanding throughout their entire solar system, using Imperial technology to colonize places that should have been impossible to reach. The species that other civilizations had warned them about was no longer contained to a single planet. The humans were loose among the stars, and they were learning to use weapons of galactic civilization. The admiral looked at his shaking hands and wondered if he had made the greatest mistake in Imperial history. Admiral Zexthul sat in the interrogation chamber, staring at the human scientist across from him. Dr. Sarah Chen looked ordinary enough. She was small, maybe 5.5 feet tall, with dark hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Her hands were cuffed, but she did not seem afraid. Instead, she looked curious, as if the admiral was an interesting puzzle to solve. "You want to understand us," Dr. Chen said calmly. "That is why you brought me here instead of killing me with the rest of my research team." The admiral nodded. His fleet was down to 1 damaged dreadnought. The Eternal Conquest limped through space with failing engines and cracked armor. Most of his soldiers were dead. The few survivors spoke in whispers about the things they had seen humans do. "My xenobiology team cannot explain your species," the admiral said. "You adapt too quickly. You survive conditions that should kill you. You fight with an intensity that defies logic. I need to understand what you are." Dr. Chen smiled. "What I am is a paleontologist. I study ancient life on Earth. I spent my career digging up the bones of dead things, trying to understand how they lived and why they died. Would you like to know what I learned? Tell me. Earth is not like other planets, Dr. Chen began. Most worlds that develop life are gentle places. Stable climates, predictable seasons, few major disasters. Life evolves slowly and peacefully, but not Earth. She leaned forward, her eyes bright with the passion of a teacher who loved her subject. Earth has been trying to kill everything on it for 4 billion years. Ice ages that freeze the entire planet. Volcanic eruptions that block out the sun for decades. Asteroid impacts that destroy 90% of all living things. Plagues, earthquakes, floods, droughts. Every few million years something happens that wipes out most of the life on the planet. The Admiral listened, beginning to understand something terrible. So life on Earth learned to be tough, Dr. Chen continued. Everything that survived had to be a fighter. Plants developed poisons and thorns. Animals grew armor and claws and teeth. Even the smallest creatures became killers. Do you know what a bacterium is, Admiral? A microscopic organism. On Earth, bacteria wage chemical warfare against each other. They produce antibiotics and toxins in battles too small for eyes to see. Every drop of water on our planet contains millions of tiny soldiers fighting for survival. We evolved from that. The Admiral felt his skin grow cold. You are saying that humans are the result of 4 billion years of natural selection for violence? Not just violence, Dr. Chen corrected. Survival. But on Earth, survival and violence are the same thing. Every human alive today is descended from creatures that won 10,000 generations of life-or-death struggles. We are the children of winners, Admiral. We are the species that survived when everything else died. She stood up and walked to the small window in the interrogation chamber. Outside, the stars wheeled slowly past. You want to know why we fight the way we do? Let me tell you about human history. We had an ice age that lasted 100,000 years. Most species would have gone extinct. Humans learned to make fire, build shelters, and hunt mammoths with stone-tipped spears. We turned the frozen wasteland into our home. The Admiral thought about his own species. The HFY had evolved on a warm, stable world with abundant resources. They had developed intelligence and technology to make life easier, not to survive constant disasters. We had plagues that killed half our population, Dr. Chen continued. We learned medicine. We had droughts that lasted decades. We learned to store water and grow food in deserts. We had wars that consumed entire continents. We learned to fight better than anyone else in the galaxy. But surely, the Admiral said, some humans wanted peace. Dr. Chen laughed, and the sound was not entirely pleasant. Of course we did. But peace on Earth was not the absence of violence. Peace was when we stopped fighting each other long enough to fight something else. The weather, the geography, the other species that shared our world. She turned back to face him. Do you know what happened to the other intelligent species on Earth, Admiral? The Admiral felt his heart skip a beat. Other species? There were at least 3 others. Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo erectus. They were smart, used tools, had language and culture. They might have built civilizations like yours given time. What happened to them? We killed them. Dr. Chen said it without emotion, as if she were discussing the weather. Not in a war, not in a single battle. We simply outcompeted them. We were better at surviving, better at adapting, better at taking resources and territory. They died out because we existed. The Admiral stared at her. You destroyed other intelligent species? We destroyed everything that competed with us. Giant predators that could crush us with their jaws. We hunted them to extinction with spears and teamwork. Vast forests that blocked our expansion. We cut them down and built cities. Other human tribes that controlled territory we wanted. We fought wars that lasted generations until one side was completely defeated. Dr. Chen sat back down and looked directly into the Admiral's eyes. You asked what humans are, Admiral. We are not the strongest species Earth produced. We are not the fastest or the most deadly. We are simply the only species that survived. Everything else is fossil and bone. The Admiral thought about the warnings his empire had received. Every alien civilization that knew about humans had told them to stay away. Now he understood why. We are apex predators that learn to think, Dr. Chen continued. We developed agriculture not to live in peace but to support larger armies. We created art and music and literature, but our greatest works are about war and struggle and death. We built cities, but we also built weapons that could destroy those cities. Why are you telling me this? The Admiral asked. Because I want you to understand what you have done, Dr. Chen replied. For the last 1,000 years, humans have been trying to become something better than killers. We have been learning to live in peace, to explore space, to create instead of destroy. We were becoming civilized. Her voice grew cold. But then you came. You reminded us what we really are. You brought war to our home, and war is the one thing humans are better at than any other species in the galaxy. The Admiral realized what she was saying. We awakened something that had been dormant. You did not just attack Earth, Admiral. You attacked the ultimate survivors of the most violent planet in the known galaxy. You challenged the descendants of creatures that had been killing and adapting and evolving for billions of years. Did you really think we would just surrender? Dr. Chen stood up again and moved closer to the Admiral. Her small, frail-looking human body somehow seemed dangerous. Your people made a mistake, she said quietly. You thought intelligence and technology made us weak. You thought civilization had made us soft, but all you did was give advanced tools to the most successful predators in galactic history. The Crow. Admiral looked at this small human scientist and finally understood why other species had warned them about Earth. Humans were not just another intelligent species. They were something that should never have been allowed to leave their home planet. What happens now? He asked. Dr. Chen smiled, and the Admiral saw something terrible in that expression. It was the smile of a predator that had cornered its prey. Now you go home and tell your empire what you learned here. You tell them that humans are everything the other species said we were. You tell them that we have your technology now and we are learning to use it. She walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. And then you pray that we decide to be merciful. Because, Admiral, you have seen what we do to our enemies. You do not want to see what we do to our prey. Admiral Zexthal stood before the High Council of the Kethvar Empire. The great crystal hall that had once filled him with pride now felt like a tomb. Of the 150,000 soldiers who had left for Earth, fewer than 10,000 had returned. The Eternal Conquest was the only ship that had escaped the Sol system, and it had barely survived the journey home. The 12 members of the High Council sat in silence as the Admiral finished his report. Their faces showed disbelief, horror, and growing fear. No Imperial fleet had ever suffered such complete defeat. You are telling us, said Counselor Morthek slowly, that a primitive species destroyed 2 dreadnoughts and crippled the third? They are not primitive, the Admiral replied. We made the mistake of thinking that lack of advanced technology meant lack of capability. The humans adapted to our weapons faster than we could deploy them. They turned our own technology against us. They fought with a level of determination and creativity that our war colleges never prepared us for. Counselor Vexandra leaned forward. Surely their losses were even greater than ours. Admiral Zexthal pulled up the casualty reports. The numbers glowed in the air above the council table. Human casualties are estimated at 40 million dead. They consider this an acceptable loss. The silence that followed was broken only by the humming of the crystal walls. 40 million dead was the population of 3 entire Kethvar colonies. To humans, it was just the cost of defending their home. How is this possible? Counselor Jerthal asked. No species can sustain such losses and continue fighting. Humans are not like other species, the Admiral said. They have been shaped by 4 billion years of survival on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. War is not something they learn. War is what they are. He activated the holographic display and showed images from the battle for Earth. Human children firing weapons from bombed-out buildings. Human civilians turning farming equipment into military hardware. Human pilots singing as they flew suicide missions against Imperial ships. They do not fight to win territory or resources, the Admiral continued. They fight because fighting is their response to any threat. When we attacked their cities, they moved underground and kept fighting. When we poisoned their air, they built sealed bunkers and kept fighting. When we killed 40 million of them, the survivors fought harder. The Council watched footage of human settlements on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Construction crews worked in vacuum suits building space stations and shipyards using technology reverse-engineered from captured Imperial ships. Sir, Counselor Morthek said quietly, are you telling us that the humans are expanding throughout their solar system? Yes, and they are doing it with our technology. Every ship we lost, every weapon we left behind, every piece of equipment they captured has been studied, improved, and mass-produced. The humans now have a space fleet built from Imperial designs. Admiral Zexthal pulled up the intelligence reports that had arrived over the past month. Human ships had been detected at the edge of the Sol system, moving faster than anything Earth had possessed before the invasion. Long-range sensors suggested they were experimenting with faster-than-light travel. They are learning to travel between stars, the Admiral said. It is only a matter of time before they develop true interstellar capability. The council sat in stunned silence. The implications were terrifying. A species that fought like humans, armed with galactic technology and the ability to travel between worlds, could threaten every civilization in known space. What do they want? Counselor Vexandra asked. I spoke with one of their leaders before we escaped, the Admiral replied. A human named General Harrison. He made their position very clear. The Admiral activated another recording. The image of the human general appeared in the crystal hall. He looked older than during the first battle, his hair completely gray and his face marked by months of war. But his eyes still held that terrifying determination that the Admiral had learned to fear. Admiral Zexthul, the human said, you came to our world thinking we were weak. You learned otherwise. Now we offer you a choice. Leave our solar system and never return. Promise that no Imperial ship will ever enter human space again. Do this and we will not follow you home. The recording paused. Counselor Morthek looked confused. That sounds like a reasonable offer. Why did you not accept immediately? Admiral Zexthul played the rest of the message. But understand this, General Harrison continued. We know where you came from. We have captured your navigation computers. We know the location of every Imperial world, every colony, every military base. If you ever threaten Earth again, we will visit every one of those worlds, and we will show your people what happens when you make humans angry. The human general smiled, and the expression was more frightening than any weapon. You thought we were primitive because we had not left our planet. The truth is, we had not left our planet because we had not found anything in space worth taking. But now we have. Now we have seen what is out here. And we like what we see. The recording ended. The council chamber was silent for a long time. He is threatening the entire empire, Counselor Jerthul said finally. No, Admiral Zexthul corrected. He is making a promise. Humans do not make empty threats. When they say they will do something, they do it. Counselor Vexandra stood up. Surely we can negotiate. Offer them trade agreements, technology transfers, anything they want. I tried that, the Admiral said. Their response was interesting. They said they would take whatever they wanted anyway, but they would prefer not to have to kill us to get it. The Admiral pulled up the final piece of intelligence that had convinced him to retreat. Deep space monitoring stations had detected energy signatures moving beyond the outer edge of the Sol system. Human ships were already exploring nearby star systems, mapping them, evaluating them. The containment has failed, he said simply. Humans are loose in the galaxy. The High Council voted that day. It was not the vote Admiral Zexthul had expected when he left for Earth a year earlier. Instead of celebrating the conquest of a new world, they were voting on how to survive the species they had awakened. The vote was unanimous. The Sol system would be declared off-limits to all Imperial ships. No trade, no contact, no exploration. A complete quarantine. But as the Admiral left the council chamber, he knew it was too late. The warnings other species had sent were already being transmitted across the galaxy. New messages, desperate pleas from the Kethvar Empire to every known civilization. Do not contact the humans of Sol 3. Do not trade with them. Do not provoke them. The species has obtained faster-than-light travel. They are expanding beyond their home system. They are everything the ancient warnings said they were. 3 months later, the first reports came in. Human ships had been detected in the Proxima Centauri system. They were building mining stations and fuel depots. They were mapping hyperspace routes to other star systems. 6 months later, human vessels appeared at the edge of Kethvar space. They did not attack. They simply transmitted a message. We remember our promise. Stay away from Earth and we will stay away from you. But we wanted you to know that we could reach you if we chose to. Admiral Zexthul read these reports from his retirement home on a quiet colony world. He had resigned his commission and left military service. He spent his days writing memoirs that no one wanted to publish, because no one wanted to admit what had happened at Earth. But sometimes, late at night, he would look up at the stars and wonder what the humans were doing out there. Were they exploring peacefully? Or were they doing what they had always done best? Were they fighting someone new? And in the deepest, darkest part of his mind, Admiral Zexthul found himself hoping that whoever the humans met next would remember the warnings. Because now he understood what every other species in the galaxy had tried to tell them. Humans were not just another intelligent species. They were the ultimate survivors from the most violent world in known space, and now they had the tools to survive anywhere, The galaxy would never be the same. In the archives of a dozen different civilizations, new entries appeared in the forbidden databases. Species to avoid, worlds to never visit, warnings to be heeded, and at the top of every list was the same entry. Sol 3, inhabited by humans. Do not approach. Do not contact. Do not give them reason to notice you exist. But deep space sensors continued to detect human ships moving through the darkness between stars, and with each new sighting, the same question echoed through the councils and assemblies of galactic civilization. What would happen when the humans found something they wanted? The galaxy waited in fear to find out.